Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Dear brothers and sisters, today we want to continue discussing chapter 28, Al-Qasas. And as we mentioned that this chapter will have the story of Moses alayhi salam. And will Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we mentioned, have talked about this encounter and the story of Moses 19 times in the whole Quran. Why is that? Because of the importance, because the themes which will happen in this story are recurrent themes throughout the man history, throughout the humanity. You're going to see a Pharaoh prosecuting. You see a Pharaoh taking advantage. You see a Pharaoh enslaving. You see a Pharaoh who's implementing and enforcing his laws. It doesn't matter if these laws are unjust. It doesn't matter if the poor guy is paying taxes and the rich guy doesn't pay taxes. It doesn't matter. The Pharaoh is enforcing the falsehood. And from here, we need to understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have included everything. Everything happened. Everything will happen. Everything we live in the Quran. That's number one. Again, another perspective, this story of Moses and the Pharaoh is the fight of the creation. I mean by the fight between good and evil. The fight between righteousness and falsehood. The fight between the human being and the shaitan, the devil. The fight between the mu'mineen, the believers, and the disbelievers. That's why this demonstrating all the aspects. Again, at the end of that and the start of it. The start of it is showing us and telling us that the believer in the beginning might not be the best, might not be 100%, might not be doing everything correctly, as we know from the story of Sayyidina Musa. But after that, the believer rectify himself, change himself, sacrifice, and the belief of Allah increases a little by little until that belief dominates everything he does. And as we see, Moses alayhi salam, he went through a lot. He wasn't aware he's a messenger. He's a big guy. He has a temper. He has, but Allah chosen him. And Allah love him. And Allah wants him with that character. Because that character will fit with the Israelites. They need somebody who's able to, strong personality, to be able to stand up and control and be a leader. And this is a message for all the believers. You'll see the most and strong believers are the ones who rectify and change themselves. Because after they saw the darkness, they saw the light. They knew they don't want to go back to darkness. After they saw the disbelief and doing sins, they come and be on the right way and correct way. So they feel what means to be a believer. They know that when you sacrifice something, you'll see the effect. You'll see the return. You'll see the EOI. You see the ROI, the return on investment is high, huge. When you sacrifice things for the sake of Allah. That's the same thing when you do an investment in the stock market. You put some money, you leave it. And you see the ROI after a few years. That's Moses alayhi salam. So that story is being repeated because this is actually what happened to Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is what's going to happen in the future. And all the times. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to test people. Like we said before, the primary purpose of the creation is the test. Testing people to see who will qualify to his paradise and who deserve hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala started by these letters. Ta, Sin, Mim. Ta, Sin, Mim. These are just letters which none of the scholars know what they exactly mean, but it shows the prophethood of Prophet and proves the prophethood of Muhammad alayhi salam. Prophet Muhammad alayhi salam was illiterate, doesn't know how to read and write. And imagine you have a child, an infant, toddler, who doesn't know the language. He doesn't know the alphabet. And you come in and you say, and this child coming and to you and saying A, B, C. What does that mean? Something here out of the ordinary happens. And this is exactly what happened. Prophet Muhammad doesn't know the alphabet, doesn't know how to read, doesn't know how to write, doesn't know even this alphabet. So he's coming with this alphabet indication, pay attention. What? How this guy knew this alphabet? He never learned how to read or write. And that's an indication of his, it's a proof of his prophethood at this time. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then, تِلْكَ آيَاتُ الْكِتَابِ الْمُبِينِ. These are the verses, the signs, the examples, the wisdoms of this clear book. Why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said clear book? Because everything in this book, very straightforward. There is no turns. You read the Bible, you get lost. What is this talking about? What is this trying to say? But the Quran, very clear about what happened, what's going to happen, what's happening. Very clear about your duties and what you're supposed to do and what you expect at the end. And you see, this is very important, because if the employer doesn't give the employee, when he started his job, a clear direction, a clear directions, a clear guidelines to what he expects, what are the duties, what he's supposed to do, what he's not supposed to do, the employee will get lost. That's number one. Number two, the employee or the worker has to know exactly what he's there for. Number two, if these guidelines are written in a complicated, like a legal language, how is a simple guy who's doing a simple job as a cashier or stock person will be able to understand the guidelines of the employer? He's not going to understand them. And he's going to mess on his job. And he's not going to do his job correctly. And then he'll get fired. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made sure that the Quran is very clear. There is nothing there which is ambiguous. And this is what Al-Kitab al-Mubin. Allah repeats this too many times. نتلو عليك من نبأ موسى وفرعون. We are telling you, O Muhammad, the story or the news of Moses and the Pharaoh. بالحق لقوم يؤمنون. By the truth, accurately, correctly. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also is saying, بالحق means what? That the judgment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about the Pharaoh, كان in a next ayah, كان من المفسدين. He was among those who are corrupters, the people who cause corruption on earth. So the Allah judgment is also the haqq, the true. لقوم يؤمنون, for the believers. And here is a very big question we need to understand. And we need to ask ourselves. If you're not a believer, what is being said in this ayat, in these verses, it's not going to affect you. It's not going to change you. It's not going to make you ponder and think and ask yourself, how can I change? How can I prevent corruption? How can I stop injustices? Because you're not a believer, you don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you don't believe in, or you can be a hypocrite. You are benefiting. Like the majority of so-called Muslim countries right now. They see their brothers and sisters are dying, their hands, their legs are being chopped, and it's like, oh. And they're watching the games. They're sitting smoking the hookah. They're whatever. They have in the big concerts, big parties. So that doesn't affect them because they're benefiting from the corruption of the Pharaoh. They're benefiting from the corruption of the Pharaoh. So they don't even concern them. So the mu'min is the one who's going to feel the situation of Moses. The mu'min, he's going to feel the situation of the Israelites at that time. The mu'min who is the one who's going to believe and feel the situation which we live right now as Muslims, as mu'mins, as believers. And that's will lead him to act. إِنَّ فِرْعَوْنَ عَلَى فِي الْأَرْضِ. Indeed, Fir'aun is become on the top. He is the one who's controlling. Who's supposed to be in control? Who's supposed to be on the top? Allah. How? By enforcing His laws, by enforcing His Quran, by enforcing the teaching of Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam on earth. That's when Allah have the superiority. But now, at the time of Moses, the one who was followed obeyed with the Pharaoh. Now on earth, right now, at our present time, who is followed? The United States government, which we love it. I'm an American, and I love America, but I don't agree with the policies on the top, which affecting the whole world, killing a lot of people, torturing a lot of people. I love this country. I love America. And I would love to die in America. But I don't agree with what's happening. So the Pharaoh of this time is our lovely country, America, which is enforcing all these blind eye policy. Why blind eye? Because we as a country, as a country, as America, we're talking about human rights. We're talking about equality. We're talking about justice, and we are exporting to the world a whole different things. In the contrary, we are the one who are supporting the regimes in Pakistan. We are the one who are supporting the regimes in Egypt, in Saudi Arabia, in Israel, in Jordan, and also a lot of countries who are doing what? Torturing their citizens, imprisoning their citizens, killing their citizens. No human, and they depriving their citizens with all rights. A bunch of fraudsters on the top in all of these countries I mentioned. Under who? Under the protection of our lovely country. So we have to understand that we as an American citizens, we have to stop that by the rights our Constitution have given us, by all the instruments, the legal instrument this country have given us, which I love this country, like I said, from the bottom of my heart. وجعل أهلها شيعا يستضعف طائفة منهم. And he made the Pharaoh, he made what? The people of the land, the people of Egypt, the people of the Israelites, even the Egyptians, divided them into groups, divided them into different ethnicities, divided them. Some group will give money, some group will give power, some group will deprive from everything, some group will make them spies to spy. Why is that? So he can control and be able to control the majority. And this is exactly what we will discuss and explain how this is happening right now.